In this world, good people are suffering more or bad people are suffering? Good people are always suffering more. Yes? People who think they are good, they are simply a suffering. Isn't it so? Please look at this. Now, first of all, how did you become good? He's not okay, she's not okay, he's not okay, he's not okay, he's not okay, she's not okay. Compared to all these people, I am a good man. From where did you get the idea that you're good? Tell me. You have compared yourself with lots of people and you labeled everybody as bad. And now you feel good. Somebody who thinks he is very good, in his mind, nobody in the world is okay. The more good you think you are, nobody is okay for you. Is that so? Isn't it so? People who believe they are very good people, nobody wants to go anywhere near them because they're so good, no life can happen. Your goodness is only in comparison with something else, isn't it? Yes? And you establishing yourself as good and making all these people are totally wretched people, then I am a really good man, isn't it? Isn't it so? Good people won't get anywhere, either in this world or in the other world. Can you take a joke? Do you have good digestion? Huh? I'm not talking about that digestion. One day, in his previous life, Shankaran Pillai was a good man. After a brief illness, he died. Being a good man, he naturally went to heaven. He landed up at heaven. There at the reception committee of angels, opened his account book. Page after page, good deed, good deed, good deed, good deed, good deed. Cover to cover, only good deed. Then the angels were in confusion. Then they came to Shankaran Pillai and said, Mr. Pillai, there's a little problem here. He asked, what is the problem? He said, the angels said, see here we have various kinds of accommodation in heaven, various levels of accommodation. One bad deed means highest heaven, sea front view. 2 bad deeds, next level of accommodation, 3 bad deeds, next level of accommodation, like this. But no bad deed, we don't have such a place. We really don't know what to do with you. You are the first man to come like this. Shankaran Pillai thought, what nonsense. In the world, nobody wanted to come near me because I was such a good man. I lived with the hope of getting to heaven, and even here problem. Then the angels had a discussion and they arrived at a conclusion. They said, don't you worry, Mr. Pillai, we have found a solution. Your body is still intact there. We'll give you 3 hours of life. Just commit one bad deed. We'll put you in the highest heaven. Nothing is lost. Lo, Shankaran Pillai became alive here. Then he sat there thinking how to commit a bad deed. An hour and a half passed away. See, he's not like you, he has no practice. After an hour and a half, he remembered, in the neighborhood, there is a woman who is well beyond her prime, who's been casting inviting glances at him. He being a good man, he never looked up. Now he thought, okay, adultery is a bad deed. Because after all, he's going to do whatever he is going to do just to go to heaven. So he went looking for the woman, he went and knocked on her door. He came and opened the door. When she opened the door, Shankaran Pillai said, "I want you." "Why, Mr. Pillai, just yesterday evening they told me, you're on your deathbed, what is this?" He said, "It doesn't matter, I want you." He went in, nature took over, things happened between them. He doesn't want to die in her house. Time is running out, so he told her, "I need to go." And he came to the door. The woman came to see him off, and she said, "Mr. Pillai, do you know what a good deed you have done for me today?" "One more good deed." So good people will neither make it here nor there. It's not your goodness which liberates you. Your goodness is only in comparison with somebody else. Your goodness being in comparison with somebody else, it's not about goodness, it's a kind of sickness. It's just like, right now, people are going about like this. They are happy, they don't know what joy is. Their happiness is just that they have things that other people don't have. Isn't it? Now let's say, you are all very hungry, but my stomach is full, and I feel so happy that nobody has food, but at least I have something to eat. Is this happiness or sickness? Humanity is suffering from the sickness which is passing off as happiness for most people. Isn't it so? It is very much a possibility that one can transform his form if he wishes to. And even today, it is a phenomena that's been witnessed by many people, particularly Hanuman Bhakt, the devotees. The occult sciences have many aspects to it. One Veda is dedicated towards this.
In childhood, I used to hear about Hanuman.
About what?
Hanuman. Like he used to take giant forms whenever he wanted. He used to fly. He used to have very small, like he used to size his body to smaller size. Was it real or just any fictionary or symbolic science?
About a certain person becoming small or big, or flying, or doing something else, is that a possibility? Very much a possibility, very much a reality. It was very much prevalent in this country, in this culture, but it was looked down upon. But it was looked up elsewhere, particularly in the Native American cultures. There is a whole tradition of shamanism where it is… even today there's any amount of talk about how a Native American shaman becomes an eagle, becomes a fly, becomes a wolf, transforms himself into some other form and gets there and all this. So these are not just stories, it is very much a possibility that one can transform his form if he wishes to. There is a panel in the Dhyanalinga where somebody transformed himself into a form that was relevant to someone else. You noticed it? You did not? So, about people taking on the forms that they wish according to the convenience is not a new thing or it's not an unheard of thing. Almost in every part of the world it is there. Particularly it is being publicized in a big way about the North American and South American shamans these days, about shamans. Becoming eagle and becoming wolf these two forms are very common for them. That was not unheard of here, but it was looked down upon in this culture. There it is being looked up to because This is not spirituality, this is occult. Here, our occult scientists, I call them scientists because they are that kind, they don't bother to convert themselves into a bird or an animal because a risk. There is a beautiful story about… what's the name of this sage who swallows the… You know whom I'm talking about? Ashwini Kumaras, and they went to him to learn this Shuklacharya. Yeah, he took the form of a horse, is it? Ashwini Kumaras took the form of horse and he swallowed what? Shuklacharya, I think. So, there's a whole big story which is maybe a kind of a branch out from Mahabharata, or it's more from Krishna Avtara kind of thing. So there are any number of historical events like that but that was considered crude way of doing things because when you take on the form of something else, this body has to be preserved and it can always be misused. So, there have been incidents where somebody left his body here in some safety and let's say became an eagle and flew for some time. But when the eagle came back, the body is gone. Now what does the eagle do? A eagle comes and sits here and says, I am a yogi. Pathetic state, isn't it? Because you cannot fly, you think being an eagle is a big thing. Being an eagle is not a big thing. Though he flies high, he's only looking down all the time. It's better to sit here and look up rather than go up and look down. Really. So, here, the occult scientists evolved other kinds of methods. That is, they themselves do not take on other forms. They pick other forms and make the forms work in a certain way. They will take a certain animal. Usually, one thing that is heavily used is a chicken. Oh, you think that's a waste, huh? So, they will release the chicken has to be young and vibrant chicken, uncooked. So, release the chicken's life and use that life form to do certain things for you. Rather than you taking on the chicken's body, you make that chicken do things controlled by remote-controlled chicken, all right? A remote-controlled chicken is better than you becoming a chicken, isn't it? Because you becoming a chicken, there is a risk. You left your body and you went out as a chicken and tried to do something and you've become somebody's tandoori. So, they evolved better, more sophisticated methods to deal with the same things. Is that possible? Hanuman becoming small, big, very much possible. And even today, it is a phenomena that's been witnessed by many people, particularly Hanuman the devotees. Change of form is a very common thing among the devotees of Hanuman even today, because that is the trend he set. Hanuman is a Superman. Okay, a little bit of tail and facial features, the rest is Superman. He is a Superman. His strength is his devotion. The devotion in his heart is so strong. Because of that, he stood out shining, because of his sheer devotion. So, even if you happen to be a monkey, if you're a devotee, you can transcend your monkeyness and become something phenomenal. That's the story of Hanuman. It works even if you happen to be a donkey. So, yes, the occult sciences have many aspects to it. One Veda is dedicated towards this, Atharvana Veda is all about this.
Namaskar, Sadhguru. I wanted to know how does the Guru transfer the yogic knowledge or information by means of transmission? The mechanics of it? The mechanics of that. How is it done?
Like a cordless microphone, you know. See, without being wired, you're able to transmit. You're quite capable. It's happening, isn't it? So how? See, of the 114 chakras that are there in the body, a chakra literally means a wheel. But what we are referring to is the junction points of the nadis or the energy pathways in the body. These pathways always meet in the form of a triangle. A wheel means a circle. Definitely triangular wheels are more jazzy, isn't it? Look better? They always meet in the form of triangles, but we call them a chakra because when we see in somebody, we see it more as a circle because it's radiating a certain dimension of energy. Because it's radiating, all radiation always happens in circular form. You may throw a triangular stone into a lake, still the ripples are circular, isn't it? Just like that, this may be a triangle, but when we see it, it is circular. And another thing is, it suggests movement from one dimension to another. We say it's a chakra because it takes you across. So there are 114 chakras in the system, major chakras, there are more. Major chakras which can be worked upon are 114. Out of this 114, 2 are outside the physical body, 112 are within the body. Out of this 112, 4, there is nothing much to do about. That is, if you work the other things, these things will happen by themselves. They don't need any system to be worked upon. So 108 are the things that can be actually worked upon. So there are 114 systems of meditativeness. Adiyogi taught 112 different ways to realize. So, when he sat down with the 7 sages, the Saptarishis, he was expounding as to how the human mechanism functions. And there are 114 out of these 112. So he spoke about 112 ways of attaining one's ultimate nature. Parvati, his wife, who was a witness to this teaching, she's already attained, but now she's a witness. She's just hanging around in the program. So, she was looking at it and she said, why not more? Why only 112? There should be more ways. Shiva was completely focused on what he was doing. When she said this, he just dismissed her. He said, there are no other ways, there are only 112. She felt stung that in front of these 7 people, he dismissed her like that. So, she said, there must be more ways, maybe you don't know. He said, there are only 112. This impertinence. He said, leave. So she said, I will find more ways. And she went. She withdrew into the mountains and did very severe austerities. And she, after many years of work, she came. Shiva was still expounding various dimensions of yoga. She came, being his wife, she could, after such a long absence, she could come and sit next to him. But she came and sat down one step below to indicate that she has failed. That's a language between the two of them. She doesn't want the 7 people to know that she failed, but she wants him to know that she has failed. So she came and sat one step below. So this story continues into various other aspects as to how she involved herself, and she's being used as somebody who brings doubt. He's going with such absolute power, these 7 people are overawed. So she is brought in as an uncommitted observer who comes up with doubts here and there. Because somewhere, tomorrow when it is taught, not everybody may be as committed and as focused and as receptive as the 7 people were. Naturally, they will come up with these doubts. So she came up with these doubts, which normally people would come up with. So these 108 are the things that you can work with. The remaining 4 just flower for you, this bonus. If you work well with 108, the other 4 will happen. It's a rewarding place. The other 2 will anyway happen. If these 112 have happened, the other 2 will anyway blossom by themselves. They are not within the physical structure of the body. So these 108, this 108 is a number that is manifested in this system because of 108 being a significant process or a significant number in the making of the solar system. So the diameter of the sun and the distance between the planet and the sun is 108 times over. The diameter of the moon and the distance is 108 times. Many ways you will see 108 being a proportion in the making of the solar system. That is the reason why, otherwise maybe we would have had 160. If suppose we were born in Mars, maybe we would have 160 or whatever. You must check the men and see. The important thing about Hatha Yoga is to constantly acknowledge that this body has taken shape like this body has become this kind of manifestation mainly because the way the potter's wheel is, because of the solar system, the way it is, that is why this manifestation. So Adi Yogi very clearly said, if this human body has to evolve further, some dramatic or drastic changes need to happen in the structure of the solar system. Only then the structure of the human body will change because it's reached its fullest development in terms of physical structure. Now, one can transmit effortlessly if all of this has opened up. If all the 112 are on, transmission is effortless. You want something to happen there, you don't have to go there, you can sit here and make it happen. To live a normal life, to live a full-fledged physical life, you need only 21 chakras. 21 chakras in your body are reasonably operating, nobody will think anything wrong with you. You will be full-fledged human being. What are the remaining things about? The remaining things, if they open up, it opens up various levels of perception. It opens up dimensions of perception that suddenly people will start saying is magical or mystical, simply because different dimension of perception has opened up. So, only 21 are needed to live a full-fledged life. The remaining are only about higher dimensions of perception, that you are no more human. In other people's understanding at least, you're very much human, this is human system, because most human beings do not, the majority does not flower. See, right now, the coconut trees in Tamil Nadu, I think our trees are yielding some 90 nuts per year, per tree. A better managed farm in Tamil Nadu would yield 120, 125. The same coconut tree in Kerala yields 45 nuts to 50 nuts. The same coconut tree in Karnataka and West Bengal yields 240 to 250 nuts. It's the farming which is different. Tamil farmers, they're trying to grow coconut trees in black cotton soil, thinking it's the most fertile soil. Black cotton soil is very fertile for paddy cultivation, cotton and other things, not good for coconut. Coconut needs to be grown where it is slightly, little bit of rubble in the soil. Here if you dig, it is like toothpaste, the soil. Now when you irrigate this land, it's very nice. Immediately coconut tree senses life and puts out its fresh roots. When it dries, the contraction is so big in the black cotton soil, you will see it all cracked up like this. So it will squeeze all the roots, all the tips of the roots will be crushed and it cannot grow. Every time it puts out, when it dries it gets hurt. Every time it puts out, when it dries it gets hurt. It needs little bit of rocky soil. You can try this. You put one little small piece of stone inside, 2 feet inside the earth, water it. After 15 days you open, everything else will be dry. Just beneath the rock, there will be little bit of dampness. So always coconut tree goes and puts its tips of its roots beneath the stones because it knows always it is wet, always that will be damp and it will be protected, it will not be crushed. The same thing with a human being. A human being will not flower to his full potential unless you create an appropriate atmosphere for him. Internal and external, but largely fortunately internal, because we are mobile, we are not like trees, we cannot stand in one place and have the same atmosphere all the time. But there are people who do this. In India, this culture is there, this is called as kshetra sannyasa. Kshetra sannyasa means we will fix a radius. Let's say here we'll fix a radius from the dhyana linga. We will say this much is highly energetic. So those who want to just soak in that all the time, they will take a vow that they will never leave this diameter. This radius, they will not leave and go, they will always be in that only. This is a simple intelligence, like a coconut tree if it decides to trek up the mountain. It does very reasonably well here, but if you put him up the mountain, in one day he will be down. The wind, have you gone up the mountain? No. If you go to the seventh hill, almost any season, wind will be at least like 50 to 60 kilometers. In the windy season, it'll touch 120 to 140 kilometers per hour. If you stand like this, it'll just throw you out. It's that strong. So if this guy goes and stands there, he won't stand for an hour. So, he better stay here. But the trees are stationary, we are mobile. For us to maintain an external atmosphere which is always conducive is difficult. So some people take this step which is called a kshetra sannyasa, they will not move out of that space. They fix a radius and just within that. So, because you want to soak in that external atmosphere, but the internal atmosphere is the most important thing for a human being as to how he keeps his interiority, that he builds this is called a kavacha, that you build a cocoon around yourself, a protective cocoon. Wherever you go, you are in the same atmosphere as far as you are concerned. It's like you get into an airplane, it goes up 35,000 feet, definitely your body wouldn't last there. But now you're in a cocoon, a pressurized chamber. Because of that, you manage. The same thing with the submarine. You wouldn't manage that pressure in the sea, but because you protected, you manage. So like this, you create a cocoon of energy around yourself. Wherever you go, you are not a part of it, you are in your own cubicle that you're walking with. You carry your own cubicle. You don't get into anybody's space. You carry your own little space wherever you go. Otherwise, you restrict yourself. But the important thing is that all the chakras are on means you can simply transmit anything that you wish. The problem is always of receptivity. In the past I've been saying this, I have initiated more people into meditativeness, those that I have never met and seen, than people that I sit with and conduct programs. We've conducted programs at the most for a few million people, but we've initiated many, many more people. They're meditative, but many fools do not know they can meditate. When they sit, not for meditation, they don't even know that they must meditate. If they sit somewhere, their experience of everything is way better than others, but many of them still don't have the brain to understand that they are naturally becoming meditative without any effort. Some have, and they sit down, others don't sit down, but their experience of life is way better because they're meditative in nature, because they've been initiated directly. So we can transmit this to anybody. Receptivity is the problem. To generate receptivity, there is a lot of work to do. So, you can sit here and let's say you run a radio station, you can transmit in the air very easily. But if nobody has a radio, what is the use? Let's say you started transmitting from a radio station before Marconi came, and nobody has a radio, but you're transmitting and transmitting. What does it matter? Nothing happens, isn't it? So, that is always there. There is some impact of the transmission on people, even if there is no receptivity, but it is not… it does not translate into other dimensions because there is no receptivity. It is easier to transmit to rocks than to human beings. I'm not trying to raise rocks and insult you, but it's easier to transmit to rocks because certain type of rocks have the necessary physical integrity, but they don't have a brain. They don't think themselves out of things. See, the problem with human being is largely he has thought himself out of many natural capabilities that he already had. Aren't people thinking themselves out of their joy? Haven't they? How they were when they were children, haven't they thinking themselves out of their joy and love and natural things that they had? So, human beings are thinking themselves out. Because of that, whatever you give them, they can think themselves out. Today you teach them something, well, you have seen many of you, they come to Bhava Spandana and we blow them out. It's really a hit. Oof, everybody is hit and fantastic and dripping with ecstasy. But after 6 months, they will think themselves out of it. So, not everybody knows how to use their thought in a constructive manner. Largely they're thinking themselves out of their well-being. They were quite well when they were children, they thought themselves out. So thought is not working always for human benefit. Most people do not know how to use it for their well-being. Largely people are using it to work against themselves. If you activate the energy system to its fullest possibility, transmission is natural. You don't even have to go all the way. If you activate 63, you can transmit quite powerfully. That is the symbolism of the Tamil. Tamil culture is based on 63 Nayanmars. They call them 63 sages who came, who transformed Tamil culture in a big way. They brought spirituality to everybody's life. This is… one thing is those 63 people, maybe there were more people, but for the sake of symbolism, they left those people and mentioned only 63. Any temple you go, you will see small images of 63 images. Because if you have 63 chakras gone, we can say you are a sage, beginning to be, early sage. If you have 84, you have crossed many limits which normally people think are superhuman. If you reach 108, that means you are completely there. 114 or fully on means you and him will be same. No difference. If you become receptive, I don't have to come here and explain things to you, somebody need not teach you how to bend, what to do. Nothing. You will know everything about human mechanism, everything, from its origin to its ultimate.
The only substance found on the planet whose chemical composition is very close to that of human blood.
If it consumed raw, it has one kind of impact. If it is consumed in cold water, it has another kind of impact. Keeping the blood chemistry in a certain balance, keeping the blood pure will definitely have
Wonderful diet for children in terms of enhancing their intellectual capabilities.
In Karnataka, there are certain tribes called Jainakurubas. Jainakurubas means they're honey shepherds. Some time ago, I had the opportunity to live with them for a short while. Their diet is like this. First thing in the morning, one bamboo glass, bamboo shoot sliced off like this. It takes about 3/4 of a liter. 3/4 of a liter of honey in the morning. That's all the diet. You drink 3/4 of a liter of honey in the morning and then you're out in the forest. In a day, easily you walk 30 to 40 kilometers and you climb a minimum of 50 trees and get off up and down the trees. Until evening, there is nothing else. As you harvest honey, whatever comes on your hand, you lick that. So in a day, almost more than a liter and a half honey you're taking in. When you come back in the evening, there is some cereal, usually it's called jola, that's jawar, or it's like maize or ragi or something like this. Their main staple diet is honey. And you drink this 3/4 of a liter of honey and whole day you're so active, but there is no hunger, you're just fired up like that. They live on this, they're called honey shepherds. Their diet is honey. Honey is one of the best things that you can consume.
psychological stability, physical well-being, vitality, all these things can be greatly enhanced simply consuming daily honey.
Honey is the only substance found on the planet whose chemical composition is very close to that of human blood. If you change a few things, it's almost like blood. Daily consumption of honey can do a lot for your health, especially people who have excess mucus problems. It's very good for your heart, it's good for your brains, it keeps your mind alert, and it's highly energetic. So daily consumption of honey can do a lot, especially if you have growing children. They must consume honey on a daily basis. It'll do a lot for the development of their intelligence and everything, even the ash god. Ash god and honey together will make a wonderful diet for children in terms of enhancing their intellectual capabilities.
If you cook honey, it'll become poisonous. Honey should not be cooked. I know people are baking it, cooking it in cakes and other things, it's not a good thing to do. Certain part of the honey turns poisonous if you cook it. You should put it in warm water, not in boiling hot water. If you put it in hot water, it sets off a certain kind of enzymes, behave in a certain way in the honey that it tends to take away weight from the body. If you put it in cold water, it behaves in a different way and accordingly it adds weight to the body. It is not that a few spoons of honey that you're taking is putting weight to your body. It is just that it sets off a certain reaction in your system that your absorption rate is such that you tend to gain weight.
So, honey, it has different types of impacts on the system. If it consumed raw, it has one kind of impact. If it is consumed in cold water, it has another kind of impact. If it is consumed in warm water, it's a different kind of impact. We want to consume it in warm water here because We want the system to open up. If you want to integrate the system, just for health, somebody is feeling anemic. Anemia means on one level the blood has lost its iron, that means you lost your steel. Okay? You lost the strength in the body, you'll feel exhausted, simply exhausted for nothing. Because once the necessary iron is not there, your ability to carry oxygen through the body is less. That means your body, your heart, your brain, everything will be on a lower level of function because you don't have enough oxygen. So, to take care of this, one of the simple things is you consume a little bit of honey in warm water on a daily basis, and you will see slowly the RBC content will go up. If there's more oxygen in the blood, suddenly you feel a burst of energy, suddenly everything is active, the rejuvenation system in the body is going up, the dead cells are being replaced quickly. The level of inertia that you feel in the body is much lower, the level of inertia that you feel in your mind is much lower. So consuming honey will bring a certain balance to the circulatory system, which is very, very essential for a yoga practitioner because you're pushing the body in certain ways. So keeping the blood chemistry in a certain balance, keeping the blood pure will definitely happen with a regular consumption of honey, and it's very necessary for someone who practices yoga. And turmeric also does similar things, it purifies the blood and it brings a certain translucence to your energies. Turmeric is one substance which not only works on the physiology, it also works on the energy system, and it is also true with honey that it also has impact on your energy system. Honey makes you more vibrant. Turmeric kind of calms you and keeps you easy. Morning you're having a little bit of honey, neem and turmeric. So consumption of neem and turmeric with a mildly laced honey water, it should be very mild. Mildly laced honey water together acts as a wonderful way of cleansing the system, dilating the system, that when you do sadhana, one thing it brings flexibility to the muscles. Another thing is because the dilation brings flexibility to the muscle, and that flexibility as a consequence becomes a way that you slowly build the system into a more powerful possibility. If you want to bring a new level of flexibility, one thing is, lot of toxicity has to go from the system. If you just go on water diet or honey and water diet, which will keep you energetic enough, if you are not already bone thin, if you can afford to use a little bit of weight, if you put honey, you won't lose weight also. If you add enough honey, or you take spoonfuls of honey, you won't lose weight. If you do this for 7-8 days, the amount of toxicity that you expel from the body is tremendous. If you do this, then you see suddenly you find your body is so much more flexible. Just experiment, don't believe all this. So, honey plays an important role. People who are doing yogic practice, it is good to consume honey.
We live in times when faith and spirituality have become very inflammable.
Don't put them in the same basket.
Okay, let's talk about faith first. We live in times when faith for certain has become a very inflammable, easily politicized conversation. If faith should have been personal today, it's not. Today you actually have decisions taken in the name of somebody's faith being injured. So, you mentioned food right now. I read somewhere that you said there's nothing religious about the act of food, just eat what you like.
No, I didn't say that.
Eat what's good for you?
I said eat what's good for you.
Okay, eat what's good for you.
It's a very different thing.
Okay, I correct myself. Eat what's good for you. But today we have a highly politicized conversation around banning beef in the name of faith.
It's definitely not good for you to eat it.
Beef or any meat?
I'll come to that.
Okay, so I'm offering that as one example of how I see a politicized conversation taking place around faith. How do you reconcile the faith of a large number of people with questions of individual liberty? I know I have read that you like books written by Salman Rushdie. We were the first country to ban him, again in the name of faith. How do we reconcile faith with individual liberty?
See, it's always been said, faith moves mountains. Yes, but it freezes your mind. But the greatest crime you can do on this planet is to move a mountain. You should not move a mountain, it should be where it is. It is not just dropped from somewhere, it's grown because of various forces functioning in a particular way. Phenomenal activity has happened to build a mountain. You should never move a mountain. But people with frozen minds always want to move a mountain. Okay, having said that, when we say faith, it's an import for this culture. We have never had faith in this culture. You must look back little beyond 1,000 years since we've been under occupation. Here we have been told always, your life is your karma. Karma means action. Whose action? Your action. So, what we are saying is, your life is entirely your making. There is no someone sitting up there and managing this for you. This is entirely yours. But for every action that you perform, whether physical, mental, emotional, energy-wise, whatever kind of action you perform, there is bound to be a consequence. If you're ready for the consequence, do whatever. If you're going to cry about the consequence, control the action, right? Based on this, now you came to food. See, the food consumption has been looked at very carefully in this country. If you just bring this back, the world will be healthy, do you understand? Here we have identified different type of people, what they should eat. If you're doing menial jobs, how you should eat. If you're doing trading, how you should eat. If you're into spiritual process, how you should eat. If you're into education, how you should eat. Why this is each person needs a different type of building of the body. You want to run 100 meters next to Mr. Bolt, what kind of food you should eat? You just want to work in Delhi, what kind of food you should eat? You want to think in a certain way, what kind of food you should eat? For all these, we have very clear prescriptions. Now, when it comes to food, what it means is, we are taking another life, whatever that is, it may be plant life, animal life, whatever. You're taking another life, ingesting it, and you have to make it your life. That's the whole thing. What is your life, what is that life, if you look at it? All life on this planet is coming from the earth. This body is also the same soil, this is also same soil. If there is a earthworm, that is also same soil. But see how it has become, how this has become, how that has become. If I give you… you like a mango or a banana?
Mango.
Yeah, I know. You're ruling the state right now. Now, if you eat a mango, this mango becomes a woman in you. If I eat a mango, the same mango becomes a man in me. If a cow eats a mango, the same mango becomes a cow in the cow. Why is this happening? There is a certain information or software in you. Whatever you eat, it transforms it into a woman. If I eat, it transforms it into a man. If a cow eats, that becomes a cow. So, every life is happening the way it is happening because of a certain dimension of information, or in modern terminology, let's call it software. There is a certain software, which is an arrangement of information. Now, the idea is to eat as simple a software as possible. If you eat that kind of life, which is a very simple software, your ability to override that software and make it entirely a part of you is very good. As that software gets complex, more and more complex, your ability to integrate it goes down. So especially if it's a creature which has some sense of thought and emotion, if it has emotion, then you should not eat it. This is the understanding. An animal which has any emotion displays certain emotions, especially if it displays emotion which is near to human emotion, you should not eat it because it will not integrate itself, that animal nature will start manifesting itself. Or in other words,
In India, today maybe in cities people do not know, you see in the villages, people have very intimate relationship with the cow. They have drunk the milk of that cow, their children are drinking the milk of that cow. There is a very deep relationship. If you do not know this, cow is one creature. If something happens to you and you are in some kind of grief or misery, you don't have to be near the cow. Wherever the cow is in your house, it'll start shedding tears for you. You know, I've seen this with my eyes, I couldn't believe. When somebody is dead in the house, what does the cow know? It is somewhere. Simply tears flowing. So when it has such deep emotions, if you kill it, it's like killing a human being, it's murder or it's cannibalism. So because of that, this is not a faith thing, this is not a religious thing. We thought this is a fundamental sense. Why, when we are hungry, why can't I cut you up and eat you? What's wrong? What's wrong?
But what you're saying should be about many more animals than just the cow.
Yes, of course.
And when it becomes about only the cow, then there is certainly a perception that it is a political decision or a religious decision.
No, I'm not talking about whatever the laws.
This is not about people getting up and saying it's cruel to be a meat eater. That would be a different argument.
I'm not even talking about cruelty, even cutting a plant is cruel, in my experience. But you have to do it. But if you're conscious of it, you will do it to the minimum possible extent, not do it wantonly. That's the whole thing. Now about this political ban about cow slaughter or whatever, this has many things. One thing is there is a sensitivity. Once you drink milk from the cow, she's like your mother. Killing your mother and eating her up is something people cannot digest in this country. Still 80% of the people belong to that category and they're hugely… there's a huge emotion, such an emotion which because they've always been made to be docile in a certain way, they have not violently reacted to it. But in some places, it has happened in villages and other places. There is already a beef ban in many villages just by a norm, not by any law, that you don't bring these kind of things into the village. I am not saying you must ban it or not ban it, I am saying the sensitivities of your population, without considering, you can't go do this blatantly. Because it is growing, it's becoming a growing business, India is becoming a major exporter of beef.
Yes.
That's not right. Even if somebody ate something, it is up to them, it's their personal taste, whatever. But now you're promoting it and you're making it grow, there is serious concern, but our people don't express it. Our people don't go out on the street and not going to kill anybody because they killed a cow. So, ban is not what is needed, more education was needed rather than banning.
But you haven't spoken to what happens when faith repeatedly seems to come into conflict with individual liberty. The banning of books. There were people killed in Paris because they were seen to have mocked, the Prophet Muhammad and so on. So where does this end? Where do we stop violence and politics in the name of religion?
If you want that to stop, you must understand this. You're saying today, it's not today. In the last 2000 years, this is the history of the world. Continuously it's happening all over the world.
Suicide bombers are a new phenomenon.
Well, you've forgotten about the crusades and the other things which have not been reported in history. Hundreds of millions of people have been killed in the name of God, all right? It's new to us here, but even here, thousands, hundreds and thousands have been slaughtered in northern part of India just because of the faith that they belong to when the invasions happened. Nobody writes about it because we never took the pen and wrote, somebody wrote history for us the way they like it. Because all history is sponsored by kings, they wrote the history the way they want and they said they're great emperors. But what they did was absolutely terrible. So you need to understand, faith is a new thing to us. When I say new, in this country which has 15,000 years of history behind us, 1,000 years is new for us. We've still not come to terms with it, we're still struggling with it. But struggling within ourselves, not creating a struggle on the street, because that's not our nature, because here always we've been drilled into us, whatever you do, there'll be a consequence for you. Even if you come back another life, it won't leave you, it'll come back to you. This has been told, this controls people, this is a tremendous technology, please understand this. And it's not simply a fake thing, it is a real thing. Everything that you think, feel, act, there is a consequence. Not because there is somebody thinking he must give you a reward or a punishment. It happens in your own chemistry.